you've probably been taught that anxiety is a bad thing, something to eliminate, avoid, or, medicate, legally or otherwise. But what if I told you that anxiety in its healthiest form is actually trying to help you? What if the anxiety wasn't the villain in your story, but a misunderstood protector showing up in a slightly over the top way? Today, you're going to learn how to spot the difference between anxiety that's working for you and anxiety that's working you over. You'll, of course, get science-backed tools for reframing your worry so you can stop fighting it and start using it. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Abby Metcalf. And before I forget, I just want to say that my new podcast, Workplace Therapy with Dr. Abby Metcalf, is going to be coming out in about mid-October. So please be on the lookout for that. It's a much shorter, it's sort of a different thing than what I do here. It's going to be about 15 minutes per episode, just going after work specifically, your work relationships, how to be better at work, how to be less stressed, all the things. So be on the lookout for that. And here on this podcast, I'm no longer going to be giving you lots of work examples and things like that, like I usually do, because all of my tools are healthy, obviously, for work, relationships, home, your romance, everywhere, all your relationships. But I'm really not going to be calling out those specific relationships anymore. So if you want that, go check out Workplace Therapy with Dr. Abby Metcalf. All right. Let's get to it. What is healthy anxiety? Of course, that's where we have to start, right? And I want to say, so healthy anxiety is not an oxymoron. I know it seems that way. It's a biological, evolutionary function that helps you stay safe and really prepare you for life's demands. It's the internal alarm system that is yelling at you, hey, pay attention when something important or that should matter to you is happening. So when anxiety is in its healthy range, it's going to motivate you to study for a test, or prepare for that meeting, or double check your kid's backpack before a field trip, right? That's where it's going to be working for you. It keeps you from walking too close to the edge, or ignoring, God forbid, a lump you find in your breast or something, right? It's going to help you. It's functional. It's adaptive. It's doing its job. And there's even a name for this sort of sweet spot of stress. It's called the Yerkes-Dodson law. And the Yerkes-Dodson law shows that moderate levels of anxiety actually improve performance and improve your focus. When there's too little arousal, you get bored, careless. So having some, obviously too much, and you're overwhelmed or you freeze up. But in the middle, there's a healthy middle, where healthy anxiety lives. That's the sweet spot. Okay. And there's a lot of studies on this. And as always, I will link to all the research and all the past podcasts I mentioned and everything else on the website, abbymetcalf.com. You can find this episode pretty easily. Or if you're watching me on YouTube, it'll be under the video. And if you're watching on YouTube, I know I have a fabulous pin on today. So you might want to come over to YouTube just to see how cool my fashion is. I don't know. But anyway, if you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It helps more people find me. So there have been other studies that have found that moderate anxiety actually increases your cognitive performance. So how well you think, and especially when you're on a task that's requiring some sort of sustained attention. Okay. And the American Psychological Association identifies something called the signal end anxiety as a, kind of signaling you, an anxiety that's signaling you as a healthy, anticipatory emotion, and it's going to help prevent future harm. So some anxiety isn't only normal, it's essential. But when does anxiety turn toxic, right? Because it can, as we know. And I compare it to salt. I say anxiety is like salt. A little pinch of salt in your food really enhances the flavor of life. Okay, a pinch of anxiety will enhance the flavor of your life. Too much ruins the whole dish, right? That's how you want to think about it. I love salt. Does everybody love salt? Do you have 12 kinds of salt in your house like I do? I do. I'm not making that up. I might have more than 12 salts. I know. You all know, I think I've talked about before, my dad was a chef, and I'm quite the cook. All this, and I cook. I love to cook. I love to bake. I'm a little bit of a gourmand. Anyway, love my salt. All right. Shout out if you love salt. So let's talk about signs when your anxiety isn't helping anymore. So we're going to get good at seeing the difference. You're ruminating on the same thought loops day after day. I would say that's one of the biggies. Okay. You're just ruminating, same thing, day after day after day. You avoid taking action because you're scared you'll mess up. So you're ruminating and you're not taking action on something, especially because you're afraid. Oh, what if I make the wrong choice? What if it doesn't go well? You're easily startled or constantly on edge. That's too much anxiety. You get sick more often. You sleep less, grinding your teeth at night. That's too much anxiety. By the way, depression usually shows up as too much sleep. When like you're always tired, you never enough sleep, you could sleep forever. You fall asleep at the drop of a hat. With anxiety, most people with anxiety tend to have a very difficult time sleeping, or wake up in the night and can't get back to sleep. That's yeah. Snapping at loved ones for things that maybe normally wouldn't bother you or quote unquote shouldn't bother you. These are signs of anxiety that's not good. So let's say you're anxious about maybe your partner's being emotionally distant, right? Healthy anxiety might nudge you to have a vulnerable, honest conversation with them. But unhealthy anxiety, like they're going to leave me. Maybe you check their phone, you spin out in your head, you withdraw yourself before they can abandon you, right? Do you see the difference there? The difference is all about functionality. Does your anxiety help you solve problems, or does it create more problems? I'm going to say that again. Does your anxiety help you solve problems, or does it create more problems? That's it right there. Okay. That's how you know. So chronic anxiety, just so we can talk about why you don't want it, it's been linked to, and again, I'll link to all the research. It's been linked to increased risk for heart disease, literal physical changes in your brain and your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex that impair your decision making. Yeah, you make worse decisions when you ruminate and get too anxious. I did an entire episode on rumination previously, which I will, I'm writing it down so I remember to link to it. Okay. There's also suppressed immune functioning with too much anxiety. So you get sick a lot if you're getting sick all the time. And this isn't your body trying to hurt you. It's your brain trying to protect you, right? Just the volume is just turned up way too loud. So let me just give you some examples of healthy anxiety, right? Because you might be labeling kind of helpful everyday worry as maybe bad anxiety, when really it's just your brain doing its job. I just want to make sure you're really clear on what's what. So let's talk about maybe some familiar scenarios and maybe have a little reframe. Let's say you feel nervous before a presentation, right? That's healthy. It's signaling importance, and it motivates you to prepare. Okay. Now, if you're having so much anxiety that you are frozen, do you see the difference? But otherwise it's good. You worry before sending kind of maybe a more bold text. That's okay. It's going to prompt you to maybe pause and clarify your message, right? And make sure you're saying what you really want to say. Maybe you feel tense before a doctor's appointment. Again, this is healthy. It heightens your awareness. It encourages you to ask questions at the appointment. Do you see the difference here? Too much anxiety would be that you skip the doctor's appointment because you're so afraid of what they're going to say. Do you see here? Maybe you're even someone who double checks the stove or the front door. I've had that with folks. And that's, to me, your safety instincts showing up. It's not a pathology. Okay. And obviously, if you were checking the stove 15 times, we're getting into OCD territory. But if you just every night sort of double check the locks and, check the windows and the stove or whatever, these are, I think this is healthy. This is not don't pathologize it. What else? Maybe you worry after a tough conversation with a friend. Maybe you're sort of right. You had a really hard conversation with a friend and you're worried. To me, it just shows that your relationship matters to you and deserves attention, and that's good. So anxiety in these moments is just pointing you toward what you care about, right? That's what's important here. And because there's a psychology behind anxiety. At the heart of anxiety is your brain's that ancient threat detection system that I talk about so much, right? Your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, the emotional center of your brain, it processes fear, it sends distress signals to your body. Your sympathetic nervous system takes over. You get into that fight, flight, or freeze. Your heart rate speeds up. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your muscles tense. Again, you're ready to fight, flee, or freeze. And of course, back in what we'll say is, cave person days, this helped you survive, right? You survived the saber-toothed tigers. Today, it's more likely to show up because of a text, right? That says, hey, we need to talk. I need to see you in my office at 2. Right? That's the thing. But the catch is that your brain doesn't differentiate between actual danger and imagined or anticipated danger. So if you believe something bad might happen, right? It might happen, like being fired, rejection, abandonment, failure, being judged. That's enough to trigger the same reaction. It shouldn't, but it does. Your brain is kind of a drama queen or king, right? It sort of goes, the ancient hardwiring takes over. That's the problem. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a real emergency and what it thinks is an emergency. And now, if you add in trauma, attachment, wounds, early conditioning, if you were raised in a high conflict home, if your caregivers were inconsistent, if your boundaries were violated when you were a kid, if you were neglected in some way, if you had a parent with a mental health issue, drug and alcohol problem, the list goes on. You likely learned to scan for danger constantly. We call this hypervigilance. It's not a defect. It's your nervous system was adapting to survive. The problem is we don't need this anymore, right? It doesn't need to be here anymore. And so, understanding the roots of your anxiety won't cure it, but what I hope is that it'll stop you from blaming yourself. It'll stop you from the really critical self-talk. I hope it gives you the power to respond instead of react, to act, not react. So let's talk about how to work with anxiety, not against it. Okay, how to work with anxiety, not against it. And let me say that the free download today, I'll talk about it a little more later, but is a little quiz I created to help you see if you're having healthy anxiety or unhealthy anxiety. So I know I'm really trying to make sure season 8 has some amazing download that's perfect for exactly what I'm talking about. I'm spending more time to take your learning in an episode to the next level. That's my dream with every single thing I create this year. Okay. So how to work with anxiety, not against it. I want to shift from any kind of shame you might be feeling to strategy, right? So that's the best way out of shame, is to have a strategy. This is how to work with your anxiety instead of fighting or avoiding it. Okay. And again, in case you're not always sure if your anxiety is helping or hurting you, really that free download for the quiz this week is going to help you determine just that. Okay. So let's get to it. Step one is to reframe it. So instead of thinking I shouldn't be feeling this, right? What's wrong with me? Why am I feeling this way? This is wrong. Try something like, there's a few things that I give to my clients. Like, what is this anxiety trying to protect me from? Ask yourself that. When you have an anxiety, just stop. We call this some self-distancing. You're distancing between yourself and the anxiety. What's this anxiety trying to protect me from? Is this fear about something now or something old? Is another good thing. If your partner maybe says we need to talk later and you're immediately going to, oh, they're leaving me today or whatever, is this fear about something now or something old? And you can probably start to see like, wow, this is my old trauma wound coming in. Another question I have my clients ask themselves is, what would I do if I trusted myself right now? What would I do if I trusted myself right now? These are great. These sort of reframe questions pull you out of that reactive mode and into a reflective mode, into reflective thinking, right? It's not, oh my God, why did I do that? It's, why did I do that, right? There's a big difference. And there's a lot of research around this. Any of the tools I give you are research-based. And again, things I've used for years with my clients because I took them from the research originally that are really effective. There's a lot of research from, just cognitive therapy showing that reappraising your negative emotions reduces their intensity. That's really what you're doing here. When you're kind of being reflective, reappraising, reframing, it reduces the intensity of a negative emotion and can help you work through it. Number 2, the second tip is to ground through your body. You can't outthink a hijacked nervous system. You need to bring your body back online. And there's a ton I've talked about this, right? There's so many grounding exercises I've given you in the past. If you go to the episode I did on emotional triggers, the download for that, there's really good ones. And there's also a Therapy to Go bundle for that with tons of help to deal with your triggers and, your physical and mental triggers. But for now, you can literally press your feet into the floor and say, I'm here now. Just do that. Press your feet into the floor and say, I'm here now. Feel yourself grounded to the earth. It's incredibly, again, these are from the research, not just Abby making up stuff. That sounds good. You can do a little box breathing. I did an entire episode on breathing yourself to calm, with all kinds of different breathing techniques. But, you can inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. That's another really good one. And then repeat that 3 times. One of my favorites that I do is I place one hand over my chest and say something like, I've felt this before and I've made it through. Really that hand on the chest, the grounding of that, really important. Make sure you're doing the physical with and say it out. I say it out loud personally. But, if I was at my desk in a busy office, I might do the grounding with my feet on the ground and just say it in my head, right? Or then put my hand over my chest and say, I felt this before and I've made it through. Just close my eyes for a minute, These kind of practices activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is kind of when that sympathetic lights up with the fight, flight, or freeze, we need to turn on the parasympathetic to calm the alarm bells and bring back your rational, okay thinking, right? Okay. See, full of tips today, I'm telling you. I got a ton of them. Number 3, there's a framework called Name It, Normalize It, Navigate It. Name it, normalize it, navigate it. It's a really great little framework. Basically, you name it. I'm feeling anxiety right now. And I've said this a million times, but a good reminder, don't say I'm anxious. That's saying you're anxious. You want to separate, you want to distance yourself from the anxiety. You're feeling it. You're not anxious. That's not all of you. You're feeling anxiety or anxiousness right now. Okay, so you would name it. I'm feeling, and maybe throw in some other things you're feeling. I'm feeling anxious right now. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling scared, right now. Then you normalize it and you say, it's normal to feel this way before something important. Maybe that's it. It's normal to feel anxious before when my boss tells me she wants to see me in her office at 2, something like that, right? Totally fine. And then you navigate it. Okay, here's one small thing I can do next. What can I do next? I can, you know what? I'm going to let my boss know, you know what? I'm sitting here at my desk really anxious. I'm talking about work when I said I wouldn't do work, but okay. I'm sitting at my desk anxious. Can we meet earlier? Or can you just give me a heads up about what this is about so I have a better understanding? Or I'm going to go outside and jump rope. I'm a big fan of jumping rope, of expelling, burning off those stress hormones. I'm going to go wash my face. If you're in a 12-step program, you might call your sponsor or a support person. Or if you're not, you might just call your best friend. Whatever is going to help you, what's next. And it's a very simple 3-step process, and it has roots in mindfulness and emotion regulation research. It really helps build something called emotional granularity. Okay. Emotional granularity, it's really been shown, it reduces the intensity and duration of distressing emotions. Basically, emotional granularity is your ability to recognize and name emotions with really kind of high specificity. Get that out. With high specificity, with high nuance. And it really allows you, when you're good with emotional granularity, means that you're good at distinguishing between similar feelings, frustration, disappointment, loneliness, rather than maybe using a broad term like I'm sad or it's bad, something like that. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And higher emotional granularity is linked to better emotional regulation, improved mental and physical health, and really a greater ability to cope with stress and difficult situations. So it's really a skill you want to develop and master. I did an entire episode on alexithymia, which is when you have trouble naming emotions, and I have a lot of tips in there. Again, I'll link to that in the blog post and in that page, and and everything's on one page now on the website. On the website now, you go to episodes. It just has a tab on the top, and instead of there being like a separate blog and a separate podcast page, it's all on one page now. I know it took a while. Back in the day when I started the podcast all those years ago, it was like the rule of thumb on your website to have it in separate places, and now it's the rule of thumb to put it together. So I'm catching on. All right, give me a break. Okay. Number 4. Let it ride. What if you didn't try to fix the anxiety, right? What if you didn't try to fix it? There's a great school of therapy called ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, ACT therapy, that really encourages you to make room for difficult thoughts and feelings without letting them run the show. So you might say something to yourself like, this is anxiety. It's here. I can notice it and still take action, right? Do you see that? That little shift from resisting to allowing in the research has been shown to reduce avoidance, what we call experiential avoidance, and improve long-term outcomes for people with chronic anxiety, just so you know. Just that little shift. I know. And number 5 is the 5th tip I'm going to give you is to find the fear. So find the fear that's under the fear. I should say that better. Most anxiety is really fear dressed up in worries clothing. Okay. Aren't I pithy today? Do you like all my little pithy remarks? Okay. How did I say that? Most anxiety is fear dressed up in worries clothing. So I'm anxious about this meeting. I keep doing work. I just, you know why? Because I just met with a group I'm working with at an organization. So anyway, sorry. I said in the beginning, I'm not going to talk about work, and here I am. Anyway, I'm anxious about this meeting, so that could be a meeting, any kind of meeting, but let's say it is work. If you're anxious about a meeting, it might really be something like, I'm afraid I'll sound stupid, that I'll lose credibility. I'm anxious about, talking to my partner. Could be, I'm really afraid that they're going to leave me, that they're just looking for an out, that I'm going to be criticized. I hate being criticized. I don't know, something like that. Once you name the core fear, again, like rejection, failure, disconnection, abandonment, anything like that, you can work on it directly. You can work with these emotions directly. You can offer yourself reassurance, some self-compassion, or even preparation for something instead of spinning out, right? So again, you're going to ask yourself, what am I really afraid will happen? What am I really afraid will happen? What do I most need to hear right now is another thing you can ask yourself. And then say that out loud to yourself with love, right? All of it. Okay. Let's have some final thoughts. How do I want to wrap up? You don't need to eliminate anxiety to feel at peace with anxiety. You can live a rich, connected, purpose-driven life with anxiety tagging along. It's not about slaying the dragon. It's really about learning to ride it. Another pithy moment from Abby Metcalf. But that is the truth of it, right? It's not always about taming it. It's about learning to, what is that John Kabat-Zinn line about? The waves will keep coming, but you can learn to surf kind of thing. It's the same idea. Again, remember your anxiety is part of your internal guidance system. Sometimes it points towards danger, but sometimes it just points towards growth, towards uncertainty, or something that matters deeply to you. And that's okay to look at too. When you stop trying to silence anxiety and start getting curious about what it's trying to say, you start to really unlock the door to your emotional freedom. I will tell you that right now. I think that's all I want to say on that. So definitely download today's quiz. Is your anxiety helping or hurting you? Okay. I think it'll be really helpful. And if all of this is resonating with you, I have a therapy to go bundle. If this is something that you're like, oh my gosh, I struggle with this. I'm not sure what to do with this. What do I do next? I'll take the quiz, but what else? And if you get the therapy to go bundle, the quiz is in there. You don't have to do that separately. And you can buy the therapy to go bundle for $10, or if you are part of my One Love Collective on Substack, it's included, and that's every single week. So for $8 a month versus $10 each time you want to download something, you get everything. You get early drops of the podcast. You get the podcast with no ads. You get access to me. I'm in that community pretty much daily. I love being in there. You have live Q&As with me twice a month. I mean, there's a lot you get, I think, for the $8. But anyway, here's what's in the therapy to go bundle if you're not sure. So I have a whole list of grounding exercises, more than what I mentioned. I have a list of anxiety reframes that will actually work for you. I have anxiety scripts for your self-talk. I have a boundary checklist for when anxiety is making your decisions and sort of how to have boundaries with yourself. There's an anxiety audit. It's like a 7-day anxiety tracker that's really going to help you get clear. What else do I have in there? Oh, there's a values-driven, what do I call it? The values-driven action map, so you can stop letting anxiety steer, you start choosing from your values instead of your anxiety kind of thing. And then there's a worry versus planning worksheet. Okay. All of that for $10 if you want to go that way. Otherwise, you can be part of my community and get all this stuff every week. I'm trying to really help people who either can't afford therapy. This is certainly a much less expensive option, or maybe you're with a therapist, but maybe your therapist doesn't assign things the way I do. You'd like to do some work and you want to talk, do a little work on your own and then talk to your therapist about the things you're learning or what you're thinking about or what's hard for you. That's all there for you. All right. Is there anything else I want to say? I think that's it. I think I'm done. As always, I love you, appreciate you. So grateful for our time together. Grateful for this. I can't believe we're in season 8. I just really can't. I feel really incredibly appreciative to be at this point in my career and be doing something that brings me so much joy and that I know is helping so many people. And it's a real good feeling. So thank you. Thank you for being here with me and being in relationship with me. If you're looking for ways to support me, if you get a lot from the podcast, and I always say relationships are reciprocal, so don't just receive, please give to me too. Let's feel the love. You can, and you don't want to, if you want to spend money, you can buy a book, one of my books or something like that, or you don't have to spend money and you could leave a review, a positive review for the podcast. You could follow me on Substack. You could, follow me on Instagram or somewhere else, on social media. There's lots of things you can do to stay in relationship with me and feel like you're giving back to me. You could subscribe on YouTube, even if you don't watch me there. There's ways to give the love without having to spend a penny. So, but I really encourage you, with whatever creator or whoever you might follow or be part with, to always think about not just receiving, because it gets us into an entitled mindset, which is really unhealthy. So always think of giving back in some way, whatever that is. It feels good, it feels good to give back. And again, it's reminding you that all relationships are reciprocal in some way, in a good way, in a healthy way. All right. That is it for this week. Have an amazing week. And I'm going to talk to you real soon.